Careful Dennis, you're going to end up doing yourself a mischief there, mate. Hello folks, how's it going? What if I told you that the guy who assisted with the mechanics of the head for Re-Animator made such a terrible film it makes you feel like the name of the title of that film? The film's called Rage, by the way. How can someone who is part of something so amazing for its time, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes pretty much says it all, then be the creator of something so shit for its time? Want to know why? Good, that's why I'm here, I suppose. Oh yeah, and if a film's first scene is the definition of the title of said film, do yourself a favour and turn it off, but keep watching and find out how terrible a film truly can be and how Chris Witherspoon was not capable of performing well in the tasks that he set himself in today's regular review. We're going back in time to 2010 again today, and it seems like a year that a lot of shit films were made, and for some reason, I have a load of them. Rage is not only what you feel when watching many of these, but it's also the title of today's little gem. Looking at the DVD case, there's a lot going on here. Positive reviews plastered all over it. Reminds me of a middle-aged man with balding hair and a glint of loneliness and seclusion sparkling in his eyes. We all know what you're trying to make up for, buddy. Give it a rest. That's what this is. A vague attempt to make a steaming pile of shit seem palatable. Over to the back of the DVD, and there are a lot of awards here, so maybe I was wrong. Only joking. I looked up a lot of these awards, and they pretty much give them to anyone, and 3 of these are just for selection, not actually having won anything. That's a bit like trying out for a football team and when asked who you've played for previously, responding with, well, I haven't really played for anyone, but I did accidentally get pushed over the guardrail and onto the pitch of a match I was watching once by an overzealous drunken chav. It also says that Rage is a mixture between Steven Spielberg's Jaw and Halloween. I haven't seen Jaw in all fairness, as it costs $3.49 to rent on Amazon Prime, and I'm a tight ass, so I can't comment on that one. But comparing yourself to Halloween is a tall order, my friend. I mean, it's one of the most well-known horror classics. Jacob Mobarak, film critic, said that this is the best film he had seen in 10 years. That's a fucking lie, Jacob. How much did director, writer, producer, actor and all-rounder Chris Witherspoon pay you to write that nonsense, eh? Sorry, I'm talking so much about the DVD cover, it's just that, well, it's just something else, isn't it? It also has a little twisty at the end, but don't worry, I haven't ruined anything. I bet you won't be able to guess what the twist is before the end of this video. I had in my mind what was going to happen, and mate, was I fucking wrong. This was another one of my drunken buys from a 50p bin in CEX. Don't know why I used to do this to myself, but hey ho, let's get into it. Oh yeah, and just quickly, the numbers. Once again, there isn't any. According to the website, the numbers, this film doesn't even exist. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is all a nightmare and I'll wake up soon. Nope. Still here. So we start off in a nice quiet suburban neighbourhood. The local paperboy is smashing windows to get his own back at overbearing nosy neighbours, and some donut left their hosepipe on. This guy, Dennis, is off into town but seems a little distant. Something is troubling his wife, and judging by her very subtle expression, you can tell that something is not quite right. The old boy over the road ceremoniously taps his tubby belly and runs behind Dennis's car only to get run over. Only joking, he just wants Dennis to lend him a hand getting a chainsaw down. He's somehow got stuck in a tree. Ever had that problem? Getting a chainsaw stuck in a tree? No, me neither. Rather a niche issue really. First world problems you might say. Just got visions of this guy going full Texas Chainsaw Massacre in his garden, or like chainsaw juggling or something. Is this foreshadowing? Yes it is. You're welcome for that. Then we see the bloke on the front cover, who is the main protagonist and also director Chris Witherspoon, driving his motorbike along the highway whilst dramatic music plays. Dennis gets a phone call from his friend telling him he is doing the right thing, and Dennis says he doesn't know how something like this could have happened. When you find out what that thing is, you'll probably have the same thought as me, which is he definitely did know how something like this would happen. In fact, it'd be pretty much impossible for him not to know how something like this happened. This guy's a bit of a prick. You'll find out why later, but trust me, you'll harbour deep resentment and anger towards him by the end of this, so enjoy that. His friend then tells him not to be late, as he is really hungry, so you know this fucker's gonna be late. Just gotta stop this for a second. Told you Chris he does everything. This isn't even all of it. I'll show you the credits at the end. You'll enjoy that, and if you don't, well, that's a you problem, not mine. As Dennis parks up, he gets rudely beeped at by this motorcyclist and does this. Fair enough, Dennis. The eager beaver jogs daintily over to his bit on the side, and she tells him she has read his book and loves it. Probably best to get rid of this one, Dennis. She's clearly got brain damage, and the motorbike guy is hiding behind a tree staring at them. So this affair is what I meant by he definitely did know how this happened. Not sure how you could miss this happening. I mean, you're there, having the affair, Dennis. I think this woman puts it very eloquently.
I mean, were you in love with her all those times when you had your dick inside of me?
Perfect. Best line of the whole film. It's all downhill from here, so don't get your hopes up. She then calls him an asshole, and then for some reason apologises to him. Dana then says if her ex-boyfriend Stephen has been giving Dennis any grief, she will call the police and have him sent back to prison. Could Stephen be the biker? Maybe. Don't worry, I won't spoil this conundrum for you, and for a change you will actually get an answer to this question. She takes the break up pretty well, giving him one last snog before leaving. A motorbike man is so unhappy about this outcome, he rips a piece of bark off of this tree in the ultimate sign of male dominance. once. I'm going to do this next time I see something that I'm unhappy with. I'm just going to walk up to the nearest tree and pull a bit of it off. It'll show everyone who's boss. Upon leaving the car park, Dennis comes head to head with the biker and calls him a fucko. It's not very nice, Dennis. I can see why you're not making any friends today. The lights turn green, but fucko just sits there not letting Dennis pass. Well, he could just drive around him, but he doesn't. And can we just take a second to admire how expressive Chrissy is in his biker outfit? You can really understand what he's feeling through his exaggerated body language and the message that he's trying to convey, and I think that message is, Dennis, you're a prick, and no one likes you, so I'm going to fuck your day right up. Yep. That's definitely what's being said here. Dennis is a little unhappy with this interaction and tells Mr. Biker to grow the fuck up. Rage then waits until the lights are about to turn red and peels away, leaving Dennis looking like a wally. What is with the camera here? Did they have it tied to a piece of string so it could just flap around in the breeze or something? Random thoughts, but this happens quite a lot during the film. Cut to Dennis sitting in another set of traffic lights, sipping on his coffee, when Mr. Rage pulls up alongside him and looks longingly into Dennis's eyes through his window. Dennis doesn't reciprocate this loving gesture, which angers Mr. Rage so much he decides to circle round the block, drag a knife down the side of his shiny new car. This random act of aggression seems to startle Dennis, and he spills his coffee all down himself like a child trying to learn how to drink out of a cup for the first time. Dennis then does his signature move and puts his hands in the air like he just doesn't know what else to do. A chase ensues, culminating in Dennis nearly running two women over. I think he should have actually mowed them down. Would have brought a bit of excitement into a rather dull film, don't you think? The rest of the film could have just been Mr. Rage stitching Dennis up over and over again, racking up multiple felonies along the way, until in the end he gets shot by police trying to protest his innocence, while the helmet-clad biker looks on in pure glee and admiration at a job well done, and then he pisses all over him. Sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit there, but don't worry, that does actually happen at one point. Anyway, sorry, back to the film. Off to the restaurant where Dennis is meeting his friend, and this enthusiastic lady tells the most riveting story about how her friend looked up and a bird pooped on her face. That is really interesting, random lady. Please, tell me more. Oh, what, wait, that was the end of the story? That's disappointing. And when Dennis shows up, I'm pretty sure you hear in the background that woman call him a loser for no reason whatsoever. That tickled me a little bit. He orders a scotch on the rocks and gets this funky looking black liquid. We get another amazing camera angle, which unfortunately is periodically obscured by this man's hand and his arm while he's eating. Dennis regales his tales of woe to his friend, who asks him how it made him feel. Sound like a discount therapist, mate. But it turns out he is actually also his therapist. Probably not a good thing to be best buddies with your therapist, but what do I know? I don't have any friends. My therapist fucking hates me. Dennis then tells his therapist friend that he believes in karma, and Mr. Rage is the world's way of telling him he's been a naughty boy for shagging around behind his wife back, who loves him very much and supports his shitty failed writing career. If he thinks he's having a bad day now though, just wait until later. It kind of escalates a little bit, and by a little bit I mean a lot, and by escalates I mean his life will never be the same after this day. Don't worry, we'll get into that in a little bit. Then he spots the biker's bike parked up outside a shop, and after unsuccessfully hiding behind a wall with a big hole in it, he musters up the courage to approach the knife-wielding maniac who is disturbing his day. He then calls this person a dumb shit and keys the petrol tank to their bike. Whoops, that seems to be the wrong person, Dennis. Who's the dumb shit now? You are. You're the dumb shit, Dennis. This woman's boyfriend is kind of annoyed that Dennis has done this and asks him very politely to please vacate the area, when Dennis sees another blue bike and now thinks that this is Mr. Rage. We then get this amazing scene of Dennis running like he has just woken up from a 24-hour meth binge. Unlucky for him, his physical prowess is shit, and after 20 steps, he is out of breath and has to stop to throw up. Cut to a man who can actually run, and Dennis looks in wonderment as silently hopes that he will one day be able to run like this. Dennis gets into his car and realises that his brakes have been cut, and then boops his head on the steering wheel. You will see the injury this caused him in a bit, and let's just say it is mildly amusing. He then says, "Oh fuck," just off screen. There's no point to mentioning that, it's just funny the way he says it. Cracks me up. He goes to get his brakes fixed, and then look at this. What is this? How would that even happen? It looks like someone has spanked him in the face with a comically large tomato. We are then subjected to an unnecessarily long dialogue betwixt these two fine gentlemen about the correlation between this film and Steven Spielberg's Duel. Remember at the beginning I said that this was on the cover on the DVD? Well, Chrissy has made a very obvious and concerted effort to bring attention to that correlation here. So now the question is the rider of the motorbike a metaphor for Dennis's failures? And as he mentioned earlier, could this be a simple representation of karma catching up with him, both figuratively and metaphorically? You will find out the answer to this one too. Don't worry, I'm not going to ruin it for you just yet. And if at this point you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay, neither do I. I'm just reading the script. The only thing I know is that the plot of this film, Duel, is supposed to be a metaphor about how the truck that is following the main character home is slowly killing him due to his lack of commitment to his wife, his car getting utterly trashed. It's a representation of his stress and psychological issues, as in, he's damaged. How do I know this if you haven't watched the film, I hear you say? Like this guy says, I read it in a magazine. I'm only joking, we have Reddit nowadays. Well, they had Reddit when this film was made, but I'm sticking to the whole magazine theory. Add some 80s feel in lore to a film made in 2010. All this excitement means that Dennis needs to take a poo, and who should enter the bathroom? And if you guessed this guy from Dumb and Dumber, unfortunately you're wrong. It's Mr. Rage. Dennis then gets pissed on like he is territory, and the biker is the dog, asserting that he is his. This forceful show of dominance will once again come into play later, but in a much darker way. Keep your trousers on, we'll get to it. I don't know if you will enjoy it, but it happens, and unfortunately we will be talking about it. After a couple of playful slaps in the face, Dennis cowers like a wounded child in the corner of a rage-filled, piss-covered floor of the bathroom, and is about to get shanked like a snitch in the prison showers. But the lovely mechanic interrupts the golden shower soap dropping fantasy Dennis was longing for, and the biker excuses himself. After exiting the mechanics, the biker is waiting patiently outside for Dennis, and another chase ensues. It's cut pretty short though, as Mr. Rage stops at a red light and Dennis manages to get away. Absolutely love that this guy was quite willing to stab the shit out of Dennis a few minutes ago in a toilet, but traffic violations, no, that's serious. That's where he draws the line, guys. Dennis goes and hides in an underground car park and tries to stay awake. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd like to think if I was in a life or death situation, I'd be able to keep my eyes open for the duration of it, but that could just be me, I suppose. We then cut to Dennis getting home, and he's talking to himself about how he's going to lie to his wife about the day's events. The biker seems to have hitched a ride with him in the back seat. Dennis seems to have forgotten about this, and as him and his wide, simple eyes slowly look around, it cuts back to him in his car in the car park, and it was just a dream. Probably for the best. Having to lie to his wife about what happened is one thing, but how would you explain bringing the guy back who was terrorising you all day? That's just fucking awkward. The biker surprises Dennis by lunging through his window, and he screams for the biker to get off of him whilst he is being dragged from his car. Then he gets his throat cut. Whoopsie. How you gonna lie your way out of this one, Dennis, eh? It's gonna be a bit awkward now, don't you think? Don't worry, that was a dream too. The old double dream fall-in scene. Beautiful. Dennis makes it home without any further incidences, and his wife seems rather concerned about his multiple injuries. He then lies and tells his wife that he was hit by a truck, and the guy didn't even stop. I thought at first, why not just tell her the truth? But he is thinking that the ex-boyfriend of his ex now, bit on the side, naughty Dennis, is responsible for the trauma that he has suffered today. Still not a valid reason to lie about the whole thing, as I'm sure this will unravel soon, but you do you, Dennis. Whatever helps you sleep at night. And that comment's rather ironic, because sleep's the last thing he'll be getting tonight. She asks if his car is okay, and he says there are just a few scratches on it. Dennis, you don't get hit by a truck, end up looking like that, or your car just has a little ding in the side of it. Didn't really think this one through, did you? While he is relaxing in the bath, he looks over creepily at a picture of his wife next to the bath. Now, am I the only one who finds this weird? Do any of you have pictures of your loved ones framed sitting next to your bathtub? Or did you just bring that into the bathroom from a different room for some reason? Out of a lot of things in this film that wound me up, this is not only the most petty, but it's actually the most irritating as well. Why is this picture here just chilling out next to the shaving foam? Find somewhere else to be. Once he finishes, he hobbles downstairs like Quasimodo and contemplates how much of a dick he has been cheating on his wife. But don't worry, that thought is fleeting, and he just starts to watch TV. A familiar honking is heard outside, and Dennis shits himself. Got a pretty good idea who that is, he's thinking to himself, and he has a little look-see out the window just to confirm his worst fear. Pretty sure he saw you, Dennis, but have another look just to make sure that you did. Hey, well done. He drags his wife upstairs with no explanation, and while she looks happy, thinking that he's about to surprise her with some sweet, sweet sexy times, he proceeds to tell her that the guy on the motorcycle sitting outside their house is the guy that he had the accident with. She is confused by this statement, as he said that he got hit by a truck, and then Dennis tries to backtrack, making up some convoluted nonsense and lying even more about the events of the day. This is why you don't lie, Dennis. Usually comes back to bite you in the arse. She is incredibly confused, not only by this nonsensical story he is trying to fabricate, but also as to why they are hiding in the bedroom. She goes to phone the police, but surprise, surprise, the phone lines have been cut, and a window smashes downstairs, and Dennis tries to manhandle his wife into a closet, which she protests about. I don't blame her. I don't think I'd be happy about this scenario playing out, although compared to what does happen, maybe the closet would have probably been the better option. He then grabs a golf club and convinces himself that he will be able to take on the biker, who has protective clothing and a helmet on. Oh yeah, and a combat knife. I used to ride a motorbike, and some donut full on punched me in the head while I had my helmet on one day after a little disagreement, and let's just say his hand looked a lot worse after the fact than my helmet he thought was a good idea to punch did. The lights flash, Dennis is having a little nap on the floor, and his wife is heard screaming off camera. He wakes up after this little sleepy to find his hands tied behind his back and wife tied up on the bed. Can you guess what's going to happen yet? I'll tell you. What happens next is a very drawn out assault scene while Dennis sits on the floor telling his wife he fucking loves her. You seem like a bit of a cuck, Dennis. He's not even trying to stop stop what is happening in front of him. He also says he's sorry that he slept with Dana and that he has broken it off with her. So as his wife is having this happen to her, she is now also in the knowledge of her husband having an affair too. Nice. The biker goes back for round 2, and once again, Dennis just sits there and watches. I would have preferred if the biker just killed her, to be honest. The whole thing is a bit uncomfortable to watch and goes on for about 3 minutes. The neighbour over the road is ringing their doorbell and must be confused as to why Dennis didn't come over to help him get his chainsaw out of his tree. Bit of nighttime chainsaw juggling is on the cards, Dennis. Go for it. He notices the ominous blue bike outside the house, and then we cut back to the cuckold Dennis trying to wriggle free from his pathetic restraints, which he does very easily, to be fair, and could have just done that earlier. Mr. H opens the door to confront the chainsaw man as he backs away slowly from his menacing biker-clad demon, and once inside his house...
What's going on, Clancy?
Clancy, that's his name, tells his wife to call 911. And she's just like, what? He then screams at her to call 911, and she's still confused at what he means by this. Clancy looks through the peephole, and Mr. Biker has disappeared. But don't worry, Clancy, he's just gone to fetch your chainsaw for you. See, he's not so bad after all. Well, apart from the fact that he then proceeds to chop poor old Clancy to pieces with it. Clancy's wife is hiding in the shower, finally calling 911 after witnessing her dearly beloved get mutilated, but the biker finds her and hops in the shower to clean off. Oh, no, forget that, he's hacking her up too. Back to Dennis, and he asks his wife if she is okay, like someone would ask their partner if they're okay after a long day at work. What do you think, Dennis? Would you be okay after being violently assaulted like that? Well, I don't know, knowing Dennis, he would probably be fine. She then looks at him with the kind of disappointment you look at a child with after finding out they have been picking their nose and wiping bogies in obscure places around your house. Did that seem oddly specific? Dennis then starts gurning. If you're unsure what gurning is, Google it, you're in for a treat. And the biker is back in the house, and Dennis has made his way downstairs to do this. Side note. If you're going to hide behind a chair to surprise attack someone, don't scream at them for a good couple of seconds before you start trying to attack them. It kind of ruins the surprise. The biker and him go flying through a door, and somehow the biker gets knocked out. I'm not too sure how that works. The biker is up, but his legs are a bit wobbly, like he's had a night out on the town, and he picks up a screwdriver and starts stabbing Dennis in the back of his legs. I'm not going to lie, that's got to sting a little bit. As he's about to get stabbed in the head, Dennis's wife jumps on Mr. Rage's back and just starts stabbing the absolute shit out of him. He gets knocked into a shelf with some very corrosive acid on and gets his helmet melted to his face. She then stands over Dennis and stabs the shit out of him too. Bet you didn't see that one come in. That's the twist. Oh no, I'm only joking. She doesn't, unfortunately. Dennis calls 911 and asks for help, like he's asking for help about what pizza to choose from a Domino's. He's so nonchalant about the conversation, and it's nearly the end, but not before we get to find out why this whole thing escalated in the first place. Was it his ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend? No. And we know that because he gets a call from his therapist mate saying he found out that the guy is back in jail anyway. So, is it a representation of his guilt coming after him and destroying the one thing in the world he was supposed to love dearest? No. Could it have been one of his mates who just didn't fucking like him anymore? I mean, he is pretty insufferable, and the answer to that is, well, no, it's also no as well. So who is it then? It's no one. It was just a random bloke that was pissed off that Dennis stole his parking spot at the beginning of the film. And that's it. That's the fucking end. I've got pictures of this biker bloke leaving home in the morning, like at the beginning of the film, being like, yeah, see you later, honey. Just gotta go run some errands. And then Dennis stealing his parking spot when he gets into town, and the biker just being like, not today, motherfucker. Seems like a bit of an overreaction, but if you think that's an overreaction, Chris Witherspoon, the director of this film, said in an interview that the reason he made this, or the inspiration for this film, came from the fact that he was getting a divorce from his wife. Like, Jesus Christ, mate, what sort of messed up shit were you thinking about your wife, considering how this film escalated? You know, maybe he was just upset that she wouldn't let him be a cock and this was his outlet for his frustrations. If you're new here, we rate things I review out of 5 in comparison to something we have spoken about today. So today's film is being ranked out of birds pooping on a random woman's friend's head, and I give the whole bird poop thing 1 out of 5, but only because anything less than 1 bird poop wouldn't serve to the real purpose of a bird pooping on a random woman's head, would it? So, oh yeah, and I nearly forgot the credits. Just look at how many things Chris Witherspoon was involved in here. He said in the interview that I just mentioned that he had to cut costs as much as possible, but bloody hell, mate, surely all the money you saved with this film, you could have at least hired a decent actor for your main character. If nothing else, I hope hope you being accredited this much helped Chrissy's ego after separating from his wife. But to be fair, I think he should have hired people to do all of these things. There's a reason you hire people to do all of these things, Chris, and that's because they're actually good at it. Goodbye.